Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. So my name is Farah, or Farah if you're Arabic, and I'm an internal medicine attending. I wanted to make this video because I do get asked a lot about my USMLE journey. If you don't know, I'm an international medical graduate. I graduated in 2014, completed my internship in 2015, and started my residency in the US in 2016. So I've had a presence on Instagram for a few years, even though I've changed accounts. And this question gets brought up a lot. How do you study? How long did it take you to study? When did you study? And so on. And I've always kind of pushed off on answering those questions just because, to be completely honest with you guys, talking to a lot of IMGs, everyone's story is different. You realize there's a lot of factors that go into how long someone studies, what books they chose, etc., etc. So I really don't think it's fair to be like, this is what you should do, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you get accepted. I mean, not how you get accepted. This is how you score well, 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, I always had that mentality like it's just another exam, and because of that, I don't really like giving much advice specifically about the USMLE. I'll give you studying advice. I can tell you tips and tricks, but I don't really give you a time course on how long you should study because everyone's learning capabilities are different. Everyone's strengths are different. How much you can retain from med school is different. Ideally, if you were someone who's just started med school and you can actually prepare for the USMLE during your training, get done with your step 1 during your pre-clinicals, get done with step 2 during your clinicals, that would be an ideal world. However, unfortunately, a lot of us, as you guys know, apply later on or decide later on we're gonna apply, and by that time, especially the preclinical part, it's kind of gone like, whew. So yeah. So let me go back to the beginning. When did I realize I wanted to come to the US? So I'm a US citizen. I always knew I wanted to come to the US. I just didn't know what are the steps to take. Depending on where you're training abroad, there might be available resources on what you should be doing in order to get to the US. In Dubai, where I trained, it was only me and another med student who wanted to do this, so I really kind of caught on late. And if I was mistaken, I think it was January 2013 that I decided. So January 2013, that's when I just started my clinicals. I decided, even though my training was British based, that basically meaning that all the medical books that were recommended are actually British books, like Bailey's in Love, Davidson, Nelson's for pediatrics, and so on, that I will study from American books towards my exam. And that's what I did. So I was studying from Davidson during my clinical rotations in IM at the beginning. Our clinical rotations are different, obviously, than American schools. They're a lot longer. They're like 4 to 5 months or 6 months sometimes. So I had a lot of time. Like I went through Davidson once, I remember. And then after that, decided I'll get Step Up to Medicine for internal medicine. And that was my book for the exam. And those year and a half got done. So I basically finished all my final exams. I graduated in May 2014. And in July 2014, that's when my internship would have started. I decided to do my Step 2 CK in September of 2014. So I kind of did them the reverse, right? Because I had just finished my clinicals. It made sense to get Step 2 CK out of the way while everything was still fresh in my mind. So did Step 2 CK. I mainly studied from UWorld, but if you like heard my story, you know that I kind of prepped for the steps ahead of time per se, and hence that when the time came around to actually just focus on studying for Step 2 CK, I mainly focused on UWorld, and that's really about it. Step 2 CK got done, then I decided to take 2 months off. Yes, 2 months off. And here's the reason why, because it was intern year, and I was doing a general surgery rotation. It wasn't really fun and easy to study when you're doing 24-hour calls and so on. And I just wanted that intern experience, and I was the only one studying. Everyone was kind of enjoying being done with medical school. So I gave myself 2 months off. Towards the end of November, I picked up my books again, and I was preparing for step 1. So for step 1, I knew what information I wanted to study from, like what books I wanted to study from, and what other material that I wanted to utilize. And some of that material included like the Kaplan videos for pathophysiology, anatomy, and something else, I can't remember. And the other 2 things that I knew that I wanted to do was finish first aid a couple of times, and last but not least, pathoma for pathology. And I think that's about it. I knew like microbiology, pharmacology, I was just gonna depend on first aid. I wasn't gonna take any other resource. And I started watching videos towards the end of November and December. January 1 of 2015 came along, and I decided to stop studying for that. I was doing a tough rotation at that time during my intern year, and started studying for my Step 2 CS. My Step 2 CS was March 1st. So I gave myself approximately a month and a half. I could have done it in 2 weeks, honestly. I just didn't want to stress myself, especially considering I was doing I'm gonna keep saying this. I was doing an internship. I didn't know like if I was gonna feel too exhausted some days, if I was gonna feel stressed, etc. Like I was already too anxious about this whole thing. Like I felt like I was kind of alone per se, because I was the only one I knew that I was doing this in such a time frame as well. So I was very stressed. I felt like each exam that I was doing was kind of the end all be all, you know, like if I don't pass this exam, my life is ruined, or so on. So that's why I give myself like a lot of time, just because I wanted to kind of calm the nerves, really. So, but technically you could do it in 2 weeks. Step 2 CS is really easy, especially if you're an international medical graduate. Like my finals, we had real patients with actual findings, and we didn't really have role play. Role play is so easy. Like I found my Step 2 CS experience so enjoyable. The exam was fun. Like that's how easy Step 2 CS can be, especially if you don't have the barriers of English and like typing, and all you really need just to have the medical knowledge. I know a lot of people, including my husband, who applied, like for instance, he's a very slow typer, so that was an issue for him. But other than that, Step 2 CS is the easiest in my opinion. Moving on, that got done. For the rest of March, I decided to take a break. I was in the US having a little vacation. And then I went back to my internship, which, and I started studying for my Step 1 again. And yeah, that's really about it. I just kept studying until the exam, which was on August 1st or 2nd. I can't really remember the exact date. But I did my exam beginning of August, and then started working on my application, and then applied in September of 2015. Here's why I keep saying, stop asking people how they studied. I think like by the time you're applying for the USMLE, so on, you kind of have an idea of what your learning capabilities are, right? You've gone through how many years of learning, right? So you know what your strengths and weaknesses are, how long does it take you to retain information differs from person to person, right? Strengths and weaknesses differ from person to person. Like during my Step 1 prep, right, I studied biochemistry for 3 weeks per se, 3 to 4, I didn't really remember. but did UWorld at that time, started scoring 70% to 80% in biochem. I had just finished studying it, so I felt pretty good about it. And then was going through the rest of my step one material. In July, when I decided to go back again and review it, like I started doing UWorld again, and I was scoring 40%. My heart dropped, right? I decided, okay, I'm gonna have to go back to biochem, study it once again, and then I was scoring above 80%, 90%, so I was super happy. Pharmacology, for instance, when I was doing UWorld, I was scoring like 80 to 90% without even going through the material. Why? Because during my preclinicals, I focused on pharmacology, retained that information, didn't really need much revision, and I needed less time with pharmacology, right? I said in an IMG live at some point that I only opened it the day before the exam, which is kind of true because in first aid there is a pharmacology bit, right? I didn't read that section until the day before the exam, but I had already gone through the UWorld material, so I kind of knew I was good in that topic. The only reason I went through the material through first aid just so I can say I did everything that I could. And so that's really the reason why I always keep saying that everyone's capabilities are different. Everyone's strengths and weaknesses are different. The main thing I think IMGs make a mistake in is they keep pushing back the exam. They keep changing their timeline. They keep pushing back when they're gonna apply. Like, oh, I'm not gonna apply this year, I'm gonna apply next year so I can give myself 3 more months for step 1, 2 more months for step 2. No. That's not adding anything to your CV, because in my opinion, because everyone's doing the USMLE, right? You don't have to score good either way, especially if you're an IMG. But in the meantime, if you're doing 1 year of research experience and you're doing the USMLE at the same time, so it's not really considered a gap, and you want to take your time doing the exams, do it. Like, why not, right? Less stress. But everyone's timeline is different. Everyone has different obligations or a different life course per se. So that's really why I don't really like giving you guys timelines, because everyone's really different. But other than that, you can ask me whatever questions you want and leave them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you guys, or I'll make another video dedicated to those questions. Oh yeah, so I'll kind of briefly touch on this because I do get asked a lot. What made your CV stand out? If you talk to some people tell you, I did 2 years of research in Mayo Clinic, etc., etc. And that's all great, right? Like, very dedicated, obviously, that's amazing. However, I think it's very important that you know what specialty you're applying to, right? And according to what specialty you're applying to, you can create a game plan. Each specialty has certain requirements, right? Each specialty is more competitive or less competitive than the other. So I knew I wanted internal medicine. Internal medicine is not considered a competitive program. Just because there's so many available positions, like hundreds and hundreds of positions are available for internal medicine. Whereas, let's say dermatology, which has less than 100 positions, I believe, don't quote me on that, but the number of positions available are so minimal that it's more competitive. Even American medical graduates don't get accepted sometimes into dermatology and end up doing a year or 2 of research. So you need to know what you're applying to, and based off that, create a game plan. I knew I wanted to make sure that I applied directly out of med school, because I know like a lot of IMGs don't tend to do that, so that was kind of the vantage point I was playing. I made sure my grades were great. What else? I had a lot of volunteer experience, and that was great. I had 2 research experience at that time that I added to my CV. I made sure my personal statement was really strong as well, and that's really about it. And I think that's how I made my CV stand out. You're not always going to find a lot of people, not a lot of people come and do externships. Not a lot of people come and do research. especially if you're not going to apply to a program that's highly competitive. If you're applying for general surgery, ophthalmology, dermatology, urology, you need to different game plan. If you're applying to something else, I don't really know how competitive certain fields are, but based off that, you have to create your own game plan. And yeah, that's about that. And if you guys have anything, any topic, any questions that you want me to discuss in a separate video, please leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be reading them and creating more videos for you guys. I hope you like this, and goodbye.